And thanks very much for the invitation to speak here this morning, and I would like to add my congratulations to our, I suppose, main man in this initiative, Willie Donnelly, on his recent appointment as President of WIT. So I'm going to just give you, I suppose, try to give you a flavour of what we're doing in Teagasc and what our perspective is on ICT and agriculture. And this is something a number of years ago, or probably a lot of years ago, we identified as an area that was going to be very important for agriculture for the future. And a couple of the strategic things we thought about, we said, look, we've got a lot of expertise in the organisation in terms of the traditional agriculture and food disciplines, but we don't have the skills or the wherewithal in terms of the sensors and the ICT. And yet at the same time there was huge capacity and expertise built up in those areas within Ireland through funding, like as Mark has described, from SFI and other bodies. So we felt, look, there's no point us trying to get all those skills. What we really need to do is bring those bodies into collaboration with ourselves and with other researchers in the agriculture community. So we did a number of kind of strategic things at the time. The first that Mark has already mentioned was we sat down and discussed with SFI how we could bring this area forward, and we developed a joint funding programme which was specifically targeted about trying to link agriculture and food researchers with researchers from the ICT and sensor community. And there are a number of projects. I'm going to talk a little bit about one of those in a minute. And another significant initiative that we did, I'm delighted to see Kieran up here beside me, and it's not because you're there, Kieran, that I'm mentioning it, but like we signed an MOU with the Tyndall Institute last year, because again we feel there's fantastic expertise there in relation to development of sensors that we can leverage and help you, I guess, to guide your efforts. And it's, apart from the Tyndall, we're working with lots of the other universities and institutes in Ireland with that aim of trying to bring the convergence of disciplines, the traditional agriculture with the ICT and the sensors, to bear in agricultural projects and agricultural problems, so that we can make progress through that. So that's kind of, I suppose, the philosophy that we're coming to this. We need to partner. We recognise we need to partner with others if we're going to get the huge benefit that can be got in this area for agriculture. So what's the opportunity? And if you look around the world, like smart agriculture, precision agriculture, they're actually quite old terms. And most of the developments have been in the area of crop production or cropping. So, and that's all great, and you know, our crop sector are as advanced as any in terms of utilising some of those technologies. But our agriculture here in Ireland is mainly grass-based ruminant production. Dairy and beef are two big sectors. So that's where we feel if Ireland is to take a leading position, and where we should be putting the bulk of our efforts in this area, it's try to become world leaders in that segment of livestock, precision livestock farming. And I'm going to show you some of the work that we're doing in that area. It's only going to be a flavour really, because there's so much going on, it'll be impossible in 10 or 15 minutes to cover it. But I think, you know, one of the questions that we must always keep to the forefront of our mind when we're talking about this area, because it's always so easy to talk about some fantastic new opportunity or some fantastic new technology or some great new gadget or some great new measurement that we can do. But you've got to ask yourself, why are we doing this? What's in this? And whatever technology you're going to get involved in developing, it must tick the boxes of improving, first of all, the profitability, because you're going to expect somebody to buy or pay for this technology. It must improve the sustainability, because that goes hand in hand with our agricultural activity nowadays. And it must improve our international competitiveness. And I think Mark is very right. You know, we're doing great things in this country, but so are other countries, and we've got to keep up with those and surpass the efforts that are going on in other countries. So I'm going to focus a little bit on a dairy farm, because I suppose we're in the heart of dairy country here, but a lot of the things that I'll talk about are equally applicable on dry stock farms as well. And the question I'm going to pose and try to answer in my talk is, how can ICT help this farm? You know, fantastic farm and probably doing great. So what more can ICT bring to that farm to enhance its profitability, its sustainability, its competitiveness? And the first thing I want to mention is something that's old hat, but when we talk about big data, we should realise that we probably have one of the best examples of the use of big data already underway in agriculture for several years, and that's through the whole animal breeding schemes. And they have developed exponentially in the last couple of years in terms of the use of genomics in animal breeding, and it has led to probably an increase in the rate of genetic gain of something of the order of 60% since genomic selection was introduced here in Ireland in 2009. And it is one of the things that the country should be proud of, that we were only the second country in the world after the United States to introduce genomic selection into our dairy cattle breeding programme. And as I said, it has led to about a 60% in the rate of genetic gain. So in other words, we were gaining at 1% a year. We've now increased that to about 1.6% a year genetic gain in the herd. So further developments in that since 2009, one of the most significant has been the development of what we call a customised SNP chip. And these SNP chips are what are used to do the genotyping or the measuring the DNA of animals. And ourselves and ICBF and Weatherby's and Illumina, we developed basically a SNP chip that was customised to the Irish herd. It was a smaller, more targeted SNP chip, so it allows genotyping to be done a lot cheaper than if we were using the previous SNP chips that have been available. And that SNP chip is underpinning a very large scheme that's just about to get underway, which is part of the Ireland's Rural Development Programme. And in that scheme, the Department of Agriculture are going to provide funding to our beef farmers to allow them, or to, I suppose, encourage them to genotype some of their animals. And over the next couple of years, there'll be about 250,000 animals in Ireland genotyped. In other words, their DNA profile will be measured. And that's going to give us the densest coverage of genotyped animals in a cattle herd of any country in the world. And it's a really significant development, or a significant piece of infrastructure that's going to be available to our industry here in Ireland. And we are going to leverage off that. Mark's SFI recently, just a week or two ago, approved a project from one of our researchers, Donna Berry, who's going to leverage that 250,000 genotypes of animals for the benefit of cattle breeding. He's going to be working with 250 trillion data points. We haven't told our ICT department yet, but that'll be an interesting conversation. But the end result of it, we hope to increase the genetic merit of our herd as a result of that. In terms of international competitiveness, this is going to give us a leapfrog above the rest of the world in terms of beef cattle genomics. I know I've strayed a little bit away from the dairy. I said I was going to concentrate with the dairy, but it's equally applicable to beef and dairy. The other area where we want to focus a lot on is the whole area of grassland farming and precision grassland farming. And Jim Bergen talked earlier about the cost base of Irish dairy production, and that we have the lowest cost base really in the world, probably apart from New Zealand, and that gives us a platform on which we're going to build the expansion of the dairy industry over the next couple of years. And the whole underpinning part of that is our ability to grow and feed our animals on a low-cost, high-quality, grass-based diet. And in Teagasc, I suppose one of our central philosophies is that the management of that resource should be done with as much precision as if you were feeding animals indoors on a diet formulated from several different ingredients, where you would take great care and attention to get the ratios and the amounts right. So we feel exactly the same effort should be put into feeding our grassland resource to animals. Now, we have tools for doing that. Some of you will be familiar with that instrument out there. It's called a plate meter. You use it to go out and you measure the amount of grass that you have in your paddocks, and you can come back in and you input that data into either a calculator or a spreadsheet, and you develop a decision support tool as to how much grass and how you allocate to animals and how much you have, and so on and so forth. That's called the grass wedge. And that's all very well and good, but it is a bit labour intensive. The uptake of farmers of that technology is not as much as we would like to have. Some farmers are very good at it, and they see it as a central part of their business to do that, but it's not I suppose something that everybody does. So what we're trying to do is really take the drudgery out of that process. And the first component of that we're working on is to shorten the link between going out with that plate meter and getting your final decision support, or your final guidance as to what to do with your data. So this new version of the plate meter that we've been involved in the development of, the Grasshopper, that takes data. First of all, it's GPS linked, so you don't have to record where you are in your farm. The GPS locator does that, but the information is now automatically taken into your smartphone and transferred from your smartphone into your computer, or you can use the smartphone app that will tell you how much grass you have on your farm and how much you can give, or whether you need to take paddocks out for silage or whatever. So we've taken the calculation part out of it. And I suppose very important then from our perspective is that all that data is going into a database called Pasture Base Ireland, which we think over time will become, again, a very significant national resource here of information on our pastures. So that's a database that we manage, and currently it's taking in data on a daily basis from about 1,000 farmers in terms of the grass growth and the grass allocations on those farms. So that's some progress that we've made, and that Grasshopper is just, I think, available now for purchase by farmers. The next step on that, though, is to see, can we get even more automated ways of taking the grass measurements? And there is fantastic technologies available with remote sensing and using satellites to measure the production of crops. They've been, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of work in this area has been in terms of measuring cereal crops and the growth of cereal crops. So we're looking at how we can use that type of technology to measure the growth of grass. And we are currently on our website, you would find a satellite-generated map of pasture production in Ireland. Currently, it's not at the resolution that would be useful for an individual farmer to do his grass measurement. It's probably at about the scale of a townsland. You can go in and you can look at grass productivity at a townsland basis, but that technology is getting better and better all the time. And we think eventually, with some of these technologies, we will be able to have some kind of an automated measurement of the amount of grass that's on a farm. It may very well be through drones. I think drones are one of the technologies that are going to become very common in agriculture, and you could well see that you send your drone out to do your pasture, your measurement once a week, or even if you had a drone, you might send it out once a day or whatever. So I think that's going to probably be the area that might leapfrog over the satellites in terms of automated grass measurements. Further on from this, and this is again technology that is already available, we're actually testing this down in Moore Park. This is the idea of virtual fencing. So when you know how much grass you have out there, currently you go out then with a strip of electric wire and you allocate a certain amount every day to your animals. What if you didn't have to go out at all? What if you just had a little collar on the cow's neck that was like those things that you put around a dog, and you put an electric wire around your garden, and the dog, when he approaches the wire, he gets a little zap. So that technology is equally applicable for dairy animals, or for beef or sheep animals. It's the idea of virtual fencing. So you don't put an actual electric fence wire across the field at all. You just put a virtual line on your computer, say that's where the fence is today, that's how much grass I'm allocating, and the cow, when she approaches that virtual fence, she starts getting a little warning that look, don't go much further, or the zaps will get a little bit stronger. So that's I suppose some of the technologies that are coming in relation to the whole grazing management. The next area I wanted to talk about, go back to that farm and those cows that I showed. The health of those animals is extremely important, and not just from the point of view of their productivity and keeping them happy, but from the reputation of Ireland as a place where we produce food on a very healthy herd of animals. So we're involved in some really, I think, exciting work with the Tyndall in relation to developing biosensors for early detection of disease, or for pen-side detection. The similar idea you might have in human medicine is bedside diagnostics. So can we get sensors that allow us to make a rapid diagnosis of an animal's health status without having to send off samples, or to supplement the process that we might currently have of sending samples off to a lab? The advantages of those type of devices, they're handheld, you need a very small volume of sample required, but the key advantage is you've got your results there and then. So the vet can come in and he's got the diagnosis. He doesn't have to wait for a couple of days until the sample comes back from the lab. So we're currently working on a number of diseases, BVD, liver fluke, IBR and IGC, and we already have proof of concept of BVD antibodies for a nano-wire-based sensor or detection kit with our colleagues in the Tyndall. So again, I think you're going to see huge developments in this area that are going to be very useful and important on our farms. The next area I want to look at is the whole area of farm business analysis, because the farm must be profitable, and every farmer would tell you that. So we've been working for a lot of years in terms of trying to develop tools that would help farmers assess their profitability. And the one that we're probably best known for is called the eProfit Monitor. That's an online tool that we have. It analyses the performance of an individual farmer, but probably key to it is the idea that it allows you to benchmark yourselves against other farmers. So it's more powerful than just if you've got your own package. Now you're part of a package of several thousand farmers, so you can see where you pitch in all that mix of farmers. And that's, I suppose, the concept of big data. It's bringing together data from multiple sources, not just your own source. So that eProfit Monitor analysis is something that our dairy farmers can do. We work and have put a lot of effort into automating that process and automating the data collection part of the process that allows a farmer to do his eProfit Monitor. So we have worked with a lot of the input suppliers and customers for our farmers and the software companies, and we can take the sales data and the purchases data from farmers through the software providers, Kingswood, AgriNet, IFAC, and put that into the eProfit Monitor. We're directly linked up with ICBF, so we take a direct data feed from them in terms of the physical, the animals that are on the farm and the performance of those animals. And we use that then to generate this eProfit Monitor for farms. So again, it's another example of ICT in action on our farmers and doing something very useful. The almost last point that I want to mention is I think it's very important that we realise that we are actually quite well placed in this country in terms of large databases that are part of the infrastructure that you need to build an ICT-driven agriculture. The Department of Agriculture have the Animal Identification Movement System, probably the most sophisticated system of knowing about our animals anywhere in the world. We know far more about our animals than we do about our people. We know where they are, who they went out with, and all that kind of stuff. And we know we can just say on a farm, these are the animals should be on your farm and so on. So we've got a really fantastic data set there. We have a land parcel identification system. ICBF, the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation, again have a database on cattle, for cattle breeding information that is as good as anything I have seen anywhere in the world. And there's a huge amount of data going into that. And I think, huge possibilities to bring more data into that. I was just talking with Ed Harty there from Dairy Master, and the type of information that can be collected from things like the Moo Monitor about animals, when they come in heat. If we can get that into the database, it's not alone powerful for the farmer in terms of managing his herd, but it's also powerful for doing genetic evaluations of animals. So huge progress that can be made there. In Teagasc, we have a number of databases. We've got Pasture Base Ireland that I mentioned. We have recently completed the Irish Soil Information System, so now we have information on all our soils on a digital basis. We have the National Farm Survey and the eProfit Monitor that I mentioned. Other agencies are also supplying us with fantastic data sets if we can make use of them. Met Éireann now have very high resolution weather forecast down, I think, to about 2 square kilometres. So you can get a weather forecast down at that level of detail for about 7 days ahead. Geological Survey of Ireland and Ordnance Survey of Ireland have fantastic databases or mapping information on the country. I won't go into any more detail. I'll pass on this because I know my time is probably gone. This is just a project that it's one of these projects came out of that joint funding scheme with Science Foundation Ireland, Precision Dairy, our partners in that are TSSG, and we're delighted to be working with them on that, and a company called True North Mapping, and that's looking at how we can use all these various data generating opportunities on farms to turn them into useful information. That was another project that I think got mentioned here as well, which is Smart Appy, that we're involved with TSSG on that as well. But anyway, just to go back to my original slide, how can we help ICT help this farm? Hopefully I've shown you a few of the areas in which ICT can make a difference on a farm like that. There's lots more opportunity: robotic milking, the kind of detailed monitoring of animals, milk supply forecasting, nutrient management, weather forecasting, environmental measurements. I just didn't have time to cover all those. So to conclude, I think there's a huge possibility to improve the efficiency, to improve the profitability, and to improve the sustainability of our farms through the use of ICT and related technologies. I think we are well positioned in terms of taking advantage of that opportunity. We have excellent databases. We have great research strengths in the traditional agriculture, but also in the ICT and sensor areas. So the opportunity is about converging those areas of expertise and bringing the different people with different skill sets to work together. And I think our aim should be that we would have the most data-driven livestock agriculture in the world by the year, I would say, 2025. The Department of Agriculture are currently leading a process to generate a successor to Food Harvest 2020. It's going to be something like Agri-Food 2025, so that's going to be our horizon point. And I think over the course of that plan, Ireland should aim to have another competitive advantage to sit on top of our grass-based production system, being the best at using data and information in terms of guiding and managing our agriculture in the world. So I'll leave it at that, Sinead. Thank you.